I just spent the last 2 days at an incredible photography workshop in Canmore. We went to stunning locations all over Canmore and Banff, learning from incredible mentors in the wedding industry and shooting some seriously beautiful subjects. But my time in the mountains is just getting started. I'm in Banff for just 3 days and, well, I'm trying to see as much as I can without a car. With the rental cars being outrageous at the moment with availability and cost, I've just decided to try out the public transportation system here in Banff. So I jumped on a shuttle bus called the Brewster Bus from the Calgary airport to Canmore for the workshop, and then after the workshop I jumped back on it to head to Banff. And while in Banff, I'm going to try to use the public transportation system called Roam Transit. You can actually use an app to track where the buses are and use your an app for like a token, which is kind of cool. Makes it super easy. I know this doesn't really sound like a challenge for a lot of people, but I grew up in a place where we didn't have public transportation system. So I just checked into my motel for the night. It's called the Dorothy Motel. It's on the edge of town and it's one of the newly renovated ones. Each room has its own cute decor and it has this adorable little courtyard in the middle. And I'm gonna go explore probably tomorrow because tonight I'm going for dinner.
Last time I was in Banff, I was on a tight budget, which meant I went out to eat only once. This time around, since I wasn't paying for a rental car, I decided to treat myself to a couple of nice dinners. The first stop was the Bison. Known for its hyper-local fare, the Bison was a perfect first dinner and I was completely spoiled by the incredible staff. Plus, I was able to see the sunset on the mountains while catching the bus back to the Dorothy. My first adventure with Roam Transit was to Johnson Canyon. Even though I visited Banff several times in my life, I was convinced I hadn't been to Johnson Canyon. That is, until I got there. I must have only been 13, but I distinctly remember taking my parents' photo on the green bridge at the lower falls. Either way, I enjoyed this journey. When I got back to Banff, I grabbed lunch at the Park Distillery, enjoying an interesting quesadilla and a tasty cocktail from their extensive menu. Then I set off on foot to explore Banff. One thing I wanted to see while I was here was elk, but because I didn't have a car, I joined what was called a Banff Safari. It was kind of silly to be honest, but we did end up seeing quite a lot of elk. Then I grabbed myself a pizza and a cocktail at Banff Avenue Brewing Company before turning in for the night. The next morning, I took the first gondola up Sulphur Mountain to catch the best views in Banff. All in all, I'd say it's easier than ever before to see Banff without a car. I spent $12 for a 3-day unlimited pass, which took me on all of the in-town routes. For the routes out of Banff, like to Moraine Lake, Lake Louise, Johnson Canyon, it cost about $25 round trip. And I got to see all of those places without fighting for a parking spot. So I'm on the gondola heading back down the mountain, and I figured I'd take this moment to say that if you want to do Banff by bus, it's totally doable. Definitely miss out on a few things that I would have been able to do by car. I could set my own schedule, but it's totally doable, and you are guaranteed access to things like Moraine Lake and like Lake Louise because you don't have to find parking. You can just take a shuttle. Anyway, that wraps up this video and my time in Banff. I'm so sad to be leaving the mountains, but what an incredible experience. A quick 2023 update for you. Parks Canada just announced that they were closing access to Moraine Lake for personal vehicles. I don't really agree with it because there's no way for photographers to get there before sunrise anymore, but I kind of understand why. Which is why knowing how to get around Banff by public transit is super important. You can read more about how to get around Banff without a car on my blog, which you'll find a link to in the description below.
P.S. I'm going to be launching a mountains collection in my print shop, so stay tuned for details for that.